It's my please hold, and I'll read Rob Salkowitz's press release from November 20th, 2025, if I want to. As a new player in the increasingly crowded field of deluxe reproductions of classic comic books, Lighthouse Press is starting with a big target, announcing plans to publish Tyrant, a lost masterpiece by artist Steve Bissette, Swamp Thing, that originally ran as 4 individual issues in the early 90s. A crowdfunding campaign to cover production and printing costs of a trade book and an oversized, quote, original art edition, unquote, shot from Bissette's hand drawn pages, is set to kick off in early 2026. Tyrant is the autobiography of a Tyrannosaurus Rex and his struggle to survive, featuring Bissette's gloriously rendered Cretaceous period landscapes and epic storytelling that has earned it cult status. The title was originally published in black and white on newsprint from Bissette's own Spider Baby imprint and was nominated for an Eisner Award in 1995. It appeared during a difficult period for comic book retail and distribution and never achieved much commercial success. But those who saw and remember the book often wonder why it has not returned to print. Chris Stevens, founder and publisher of the Tucson, Arizona based Lighthouse, says it took some time to convince Bissette that it was worth bringing out a new edition, especially one that gets the oversized original art edition treatment. Stevens says that Bissette only realized that fans were still interested after seeing an episode of the YouTube series Comic Book Kfab, in which co-hosts Jim Rugg and the late Ed Piskor lavished praise on the book. Rugg now is attached to the project as editor, and Bissette is providing the artwork and a new 7,000-word introductory essay. Yes, it's for real, said Bissette. Lighthouse is bringing my personal primordial lost Odysseus back into harbor. What I've seen thus far is absolutely beautiful. Thanks to Lighthouse, Chris Stevens, and Jim Rugg. It never would have hatched out of the nest without them. Sean Michael Robinson, who produced Dave Sims' intricately rendered The Strange Death of Alex Raymond for his own Living the Line imprint, is overseeing the art reproduction, which Stevens says should set a new technical standard for these kind of books. I think that's a fair bet. Lighthouse is a new name, but Chris Stevens is not a newcomer to the world of prestige editions. He was a partner in Locust Moon Press, which brought out the award-winning 2014 deluxe edition, Little Nemo, Dream Another Dream, and has recently helped package licensed Marvel and DC art books for Clover Press. He has worked in comics retail and does writing and editorial work in the comics industry. Locust Moon was also the genesis of Beehive Books, founded by Stevens' one-time business partner Josh O'Neill, which has released a string of well-received editions of classic literature accompanied by new illustrations. Stevens says Tyrant is the first of several titles that Lighthouse plans for the next several years, mainly showcasing work from the 1990s and early 2000s. Unlike other deluxe artist editions centered on established classics from the 1960s and 1970s, the Silver and Bronze Ages of comic books, Lighthouse plans to expand the canon to include work with appeal to slightly younger generations of fans, especially titles with cult followings or lesser-known work by top-tier creators. Eventually, he hopes to also publish original graphic novels. If the crowdfunding campaign is successful, Stevens says he will look for a trade book partner strong in the library and school distribution areas to bring out a color edition adapted for younger readers. For now, Lighthouse will fulfill direct to retailers and consumers following the campaign, as was the case for Locust Moon. Stevens says the campaign's dates and targets will be announced shortly. Uh, Matt says, autobiography made me chuckle. And Sean doing the remastering is cool. Yeah, it's you can't really have an autobiography of a dinosaur. It's just imagine the interviews. You want to get that all down on paper. Uh, anyway, I just finished rereading Tyrant 1, 2, and 3. I don't know. My number 4 has gone astray somewhere, but reading 1, 2, and 3 definitely brought back memories. And yeah, I don't think it's overstating the case to call Tyrant a masterpiece. I did write some notes on that, but let's let's hew to the center on this and say yes, it was a masterpiece. It was all of Bissette's aptitudes, um, dovetailing, and just the sheer drawing and storytelling knowledge that he had, and then also getting his feet wet with inking, which he hadn't done a lot of, but obviously had been looking at Toddleman while they were working on Toddleman's work while they were working on Swamp Thing, and going, I want to do that, not like John does it, but I want to do that, and he did it in spades. The sheer brilliant balancing of page composition, and then okay, here's where I go in with the pen, here's where I use the brush, controlled, but very very spontaneous. Don't want to get completely anal about this, but also don't want it to be just a mess sprawling across the page. I would say as close as you're going to see to perfect balance between brush and pen, spontaneous and absolutely controlled, and a brilliant book. I did write some notes here. Let me just grab them. If Steve Bissette had been as prolific on Tyrant as Rick Veitch had been on Rarebit Fiends, and if Rarebit Fiends had sold as many copies as Tyrant, we'd have really had something there. It was a wildly popular book, but there were a few unassailable problems. One, research into the T-Rex was and is ongoing, and like all science, fractured into theory camps, which made it impossible for Bissette to have a definitive, this is a T-Rex Bible, and have to spend too much time reading and responding to disputatious tracts when he needed to be writing and drawing his next page. I don't think I can overstate that. It's like when you intrude on science like paleontology and go, okay, I'm going to do a comic book that is faithful to the paleontology. That's not going to be possible. Very little science is settled, and particularly when everybody's looking at the same evidence, different people see different stories. I would have preferred, and I think Steve would have been happier himself if he would have just said, okay, I've read all of these books on dinosaurs and on the T-Rex. I haven't read all of them because you couldn't read all of them. You could sit down and try and read all the literature on Tyrannosaurus rexes, and divide them into camps and say, well, okay, this one's got a different perspective on this. This one's got a different perspective on this. The important thing is that you're a graphic novelist, and you have a mental image while you are reading the research materials and going, okay, when I draw this, this is what I'm going to draw this as being, coupled with Steve Bissette's imagination about the Tyrannosaurus Rex from the time he was just a little Steve Bissette. You got to find the meeting place of that. The scientists fill 900 pages of text because they can't draw. If they were capable of drawing and they had the same love of dinosaurs that Steve Bissette did, they would be sitting there going, okay, that's enough writing. Now I got to draw. I got to show you what I see in my head when I picture the Cretaceous age. And that's another element of Steve Bissette's masterpiece. Macrocosmic and microcosmic. Here we are right down to what the insects are doing, and here we are right up to the T-Rex. And Steve Bissette has a mental image of all of those, and is going, okay, where do I need pen? Where do I need brush? What angle do I draw this from? Where is it being lit from? So that's point one. Another one that I remember from the time period, it was the underwater syndrome, named after Chester Brown's indie comic, when Chester realized too late that if he continued on the narrative pace he was on, documenting how a child experiences and learns language, he was probably doing a minimum 100-issue book. And it's like Chester just had to back away from that precipice. It was, no, I'm enjoying doing underwater, and I have a lot of mental processes going on and going, I want to do this and I want to do this, and this is how I want to portray this. But I don't want to be 60 years old and going, okay, now I get to the point where the kid goes to kindergarten. But it definitely an analogy between Underwater and Tyrant, insofar as Tyrant was a bit different from that. It mushroomed from within. I remember Steve's anxiety when he realized, okay, I started issue 4 and I wanted to cover this, and this. And having finished issue 4, I've only covered the first this and probably only 30% of the first this. And it's like, okay, how long realistically is it going to take you to draw this whole story if this is the pace that you're working at? If you're saying, these are all the things that I have to talk about with the embryo and the egg. The egg at least gets hatched, at the end of issue 3. But what he was doing on issue 4 and issue 5 in his mind, he was definitely going, no, this is mushrooming, this is telescoping, and I don't know how to get a handle on this. Similar to my current experience with The Strange Death of Alex Raymond, where I thought I was 3 pages away from being done with the section I call Prelude as Interlude, Interlude as Prelude at the end of August. It's now the end of November, and I'm just finishing the 14-page, let's call it digression as thesis, thesis as digression. If that happens too often, the odds of my ever finishing Strange Death of Alex Raymond are practically nil. Number 3, Steve always had a problem all the way back to the Kubert School with just sitting down and drawing pages. When he did sit down and draw pages, he was fine. And on Tyrant, he was magnificent. more than he was superb, but he would seize on distractions and use up a whole work days dealing with those. And he could never admit to himself or anyone else that that's what he was doing. I get that sense reading between the lines here. This isn't what happened, but this is what Steve has convinced himself happened. And I'll just leave it at that.